Welcome to today's 10-second story about a strong pirate who dominates a sword fight against the Royal Navy. Let's score this moment. And here is the music we will create together in today's episode. Our goal is to compose a few bars of orchestral action music with the theme in the bass register. This technique requires some existing knowledge of chords and scales, and therefore I rate it with a 3 out of 5 on the diatonic side. And since we'll deal with only a little bit of interval theory, I give it a 1 out of 5 on the intervallic side. Okay, next we need a plan of action for how we tackle this scene. We'll focus on each step separately and build to the final moment together. Let's start simple. Melody on top of harmony. To make things easy to follow, the melody is in purple and harmony in blue. I'm starting with the harmonic major scale, which in interval theory we call scale number 2, and I'm basing everything on the F root. If this scale sounds familiar, it might be because Howard Shore used it quite a bit in his Lord of the Rings score. I really like this chromatic movement from scale tone 5 to -6 and back, but there's a catch. You don't want to hear those two scale tones played at the same time, because you'd end up with lots of dissonance that might distract from the story. In the third bar, I shift to the Dorian scale, still using the F root. When we transition into this bar, we have another chromatic step from the A going to the B flat. This movement also transforms the F chord into a suspended 4 chord. We could resolve this chord to a minor triad, but scale tone -3, that's the A flat, is already present in the melody. In the next bar, I land with my melody on the A flat in an octave position. That's a great opportunity to introduce a fresh chord. Let's pick the D flat major because it puts the A flat in the context of scale tone 5, and for this chord, I use the Lydian scale. One thing to notice is the shift from open harmony in the first 3 bars to close harmony. This creates contrary motion in the outer voices of our chords, which tends to sound very pleasing to the ear. From here, we move to the final chord. I start with a sus4 chord again, which avoids revealing scale tone 3 right away, but then it resolves to a B flat major triad. This progression provides a satisfying sense of resolution. Now let's listen to the whole line, and then we'll move on to the next step. In this second step, I've flipped things around. Now the melody appears in the bass range while harmony is on top. Did you notice something interesting? At the beginning of each bar, I never play the root tone in the melody except for the final chord over the B flat root. Up until that point, the melody feels a bit unstable, creating a slight imbalance that stabilizes nicely in the last 2 bars. Over the D flat major chord, I added a touch of extra movement in the harmony. It's 2 simple diatonic passing tones that add more energy and flow to the line. Let's listen to how this sounds, and from here, we'll move into the orchestration. Now it's time to take our sketch and distribute it across the instruments of the orchestra. I know the transition from the sketch to the orchestration can feel tricky and overwhelming. There are so many choices and tiny details that can easily and quickly distract you from your original vision. So let's keep it simple and focused. Remember what we are aiming for: a heroic theme for our pirate who bravely defends himself against the Royal Navy. With that in mind, let's orchestrate this step by step. The melody will sit in the bass range, and I'll use a combination of bass instruments to bring it to life. These instruments will double the melody, giving it strength and a rich, resonant quality. Let's listen only to that. For the heroic feel in the harmony, the brass section is perfect. I'll stick to the same chords from the sketch, but add some rhythm to give the harmony more energy and drive. The trombones and trumpets will handle this part of the orchestration. To give you a clear idea of how this all comes together, I'll play just the brass section. That's trumpets and trombones for harmony and lower brass for melody, along with the double basses and bass woodwinds. This will show how we stick to the sketch notes while distributing the voices across the orchestra. Here's how it sounds. We've made it to step number 4. Let's add some sidelines and runs to enhance the piece. These elements bring extra energy, texture, and excitement to the composition. First, let's bring in the horns. They'll provide an additional line that even supports the harmony in some sections. First, I'll play just the horns on their own. Then I'll combine the horns with the rest of the brass section so you can hear how they fit into the overall texture. Next, we'll add the remaining instruments from the strings section. They'll start by providing harmony in the first bar, but then transition into a quick-moving line. It's good that we picked our scales beforehand, because all of these runs follow scale tones. Let's listen to only the strings section. The final step is to add percussions to our piece. I picked the timpani and the snare drum to enhance the overall sense of pace and movement. First, I'll play the percussions on their own so you can hear their individual contributions. Then we'll hear them in context with the full orchestration to see how they complete the overall picture. In my opinion, the difficulty level for this scene is around easy to medium, making it an excellent starting point for any aspiring composer ready to dive in and start creating. In the description box below, you will find a direct link that contains the scene, the steps I took, and all the information needed to start scoring this scene on your own. If you enjoyed this episode, there's more to come. I hope you stay connected for future episodes and fantastic content around the wonderful subject of composition and interval theory. Now, with that in mind, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you soon. This was Frank. Best always.